Hello everyone, it's MotherGeek here. Welcome to my YouTube Christmas book advent. It's time to open another book. I wonder which one we're reading today. Let's see.
Jimmieboy's Snowman and Other Christmas Stories, published by Miles Kelly. This book contains 4 stories: Scrooge Celebrates Christmas, Jimmieboy's Snowman, Mr. Dog Plays Santa Claus, and Katie and Clover's Christmas. Today I'm just going to read the cover story to you, Jimmieboy's Snowman. Jimmieboy's Snowman by John Kendrick Bangs. The snow had been falling fast for almost 48 hours, and Jimmieboy was almost crazy with delight. His father had made him a snowman with shoe buttons for eyes and a battered old hat on his head. After the snowman was finished, Jimmieboy shouted in great glee, and then he ran up into his bedroom to rest. After a while, Jimmieboy ran to the window to see if the snowman was all right, and he was much surprised to discover that he wasn't there at all. The snowman couldn't have melted, that was certain, for the air was colder than it had been when the snowman was put up. It's strange, thought Jimmieboy. He was there 10 minutes ago. And then the doorbell rang, and Jimmieboy went to the door and opened it. There was the snowman. "Won't you come in?" asked Jimmieboy. The snowman stared at Jimmieboy, and then he said, "Indeed, I'll enter not that door. I've tried it once or twice before." "Didn't you like it?" Jimmieboy asked. "Oh yes, I liked it well enough, although it used me pretty rough. I lost a nose and foot and ear last time I happened to come here." "Do you always speak in rhyme?" asked Jimmieboy, surprised. "Always except when I speak in prose," said the snowman. "But say, don't stand there with the door open letting all the heat out into the world. If you want to talk to me, come outside." "Very well," said Jimmieboy. "I'll come if you'll wait until I bundle up a little so as to keep warm." "All right, I'll wait," the snowman answered. "I'll take you up to where I live and introduce you to my boys if you like. Only hurry. If a thaw should set in, we might have trouble." The snowman smiled happily as Jimmieboy came out, and then the two of them went off up the road together. "I'm glad you weren't offended with me because I wouldn't go in and sit down in your house," said the snowman. "I had a very narrow escape 30 winters ago, when I was young and didn't know any better. A small boy asked me to go into his house. I said all right, and in I went, never thinking that the house was hot and that I'd be in danger of melting away. The boy got out his picture books, and we sat down before a blazing log fire. Suddenly the boy turned white as I was and cried out, 'What have you done with your leg?' The minute I tried to rise and hop off on the search, I discovered that my other leg was gone too." "How dreadful!" Jimmieboy said. "It was fearful," returned the snowman. "But that wasn't half. I raised my hand to my forehead when off dropped my right arm, and as I reached out with my left to pick it up again, that dropped off too." Then the boy cried out, "Why, I know what's the matter. You are melting away." He was right. Fortunately, as my neck began to go and my head rolled off the chair onto the floor, the boy picked it up. It was all that was left of me, and threw it out of the window. "Do you live near here?" asked Jimmieboy as he trudged along at the snowman's side. "When summer comes, I move up to the North Pole," replied the snowman. Jimmieboy peered curiously along the road, at the far end of which he could see a huge mound of snow. "Do you live in that?" he asked. "Yes," the snowman replied. "The house part of it is always as cold as ice. It's cooled by a special kind of refrigerator I had put in, which consumes about half a ton of ice each week. Once in a while my boys run in the sun and get warmed through, but I dose 'em up with ice water and cold cream and they soon get chilled again. But come, shall we go in now?" By this time they had reached the side of the snowdrift, and Jimmieboy was pleased to see a door at one side of it. This the snowman opened, and they entered together a marvellously beautiful garden, glistening with frosty flowers and snow-clad trees. At the end of the garden was a little white house that looked like the icing on Jimmieboy's birthday cake. As they approached it, A dozen small-sized snowboys rushed out and began to pelt the Snowman and Jimmieboy with snowballs. "Hold up, boys," cried the Snowman. "I've brought a friend home to see you." The boys stopped at once, and Jimmieboy was introduced to them. They showed him wondrous snow toys, amongst which were rocking horses, railway trains, and soldiers, all made of the same soft fleecy substance from which the Snowman and his children were constructed. When Jimmieboy had played for a long time with these, they gave him caramels and cream cakes, also made of snow. After this the boys invited him out to the sledge, and he went along with them. It took his breath away the first time he went down, but when he got used to it he found the sport delightful. But he was glad when a voice from the little white house called to the children to return. "Come in now, boys," it said. "It is getting too warm for you to stay out." The Snowman looked a little anxious, Jimmieboy thought, but he supposed this was because the littlest snowboy had overheated himself at his play, and had come in -2 fingers and an ear. It was not this, however, that bothered him, as Jimmieboy found out in a few minutes, for the Snowman simply restored the missing fingers and the ear by making a new lot for the little fellow out of a handful of snow he got from the garden. The real cause of the Snowman's anxiety came out when he called Jimmieboy to one side. "You must go home right away," he said. "I'm sorry, but we have got to fly just as hard as we can, or we are lost." "But," said Jimmieboy. "Don't ask for reasons," returned the Snowman, gathering his little snowboys together and rushing off with them. "Just read that, and you'll see. Farewell." Jimmieboy picked up the thing the Snowman had told him to read. It was a newspaper, and at the top was an announcement in huge letters. When Jimmieboy saw this, he knew right away why he had been deserted. He walked to the front door and opened it, and what do you suppose it opened into? It opened into Jimmieboy's bedroom, and when the door closed after him, lo and behold, it wasn't there. Nor was the Snowman to be found the next morning. There wasn't even a sign of the shoe-button eyes, or the battered hat, as there certainly would have been had he melted instead of run away. The end. Thanks for watching. Check back tomorrow for another story.